What's up, people? Ad's here. It's the 7th of October, 2020, south of 30 days to the election. And I want to do a documentary review on the documentary entitled Who Took Johnny? This documentary is about the kidnapping of Johnny Gosch. And it is linked to the Franklin scandal. Last night I did a book review on the Franklin scandal by Nick Bryant. And Nick Bryant is actually seen, makes an appearance in this documentary for a short time. He's wearing, I think it's a Minnesota hat. I want to ask him about his Minnesota connection, because that's something that Chris Milligan of Trine Day Publishing also mentioned, that he had a Minnesota connection, and he mentioned an anecdote that I also want to ask Mr. Bryant about with regards to police. But this particular documentary came out in 2014. It's an hour and 20 minutes. 2016 in the U.S. Don't know what that means. But it features Noreen Gosch, who is the mother of Johnny Gosch, Paul Bonacci as well, but Bonacci. It's an Italian name, so I guess I say Bonacci. Not kind of. I want to, but Americans pronounce it Bonacci, so that's fine. But double C makes the ch sound in Italy, in Italian. But very interesting documentary. I couldn't find a free link on YouTube to share, but I'm sure it's out there if people want to find it. And if you like Nick Bryant's work, you get to see him make an appearance as well. But what stuck out to me about this documentary was probably the single foremost thing was the Paul Bonacci testimony, where he actually knew exactly where Johnny was kidnapped. Many people think it was on the main street, but it was actually just around the corner on the residential street. And he made that distinction in his testimony, or when he spoke to Noreen Gosch. He also provided information that neither the authorities or Noreen Gosch revealed that was true about Johnny, including a birthmark that he had somewhere on his chest, and the fact that he would stammer when he was flustered or upset, which again is info that was not released to the public. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, did not look into this lead whatsoever. But the link here is Paul Bonacci was one of the children who was trafficked in the Franklin scandal. He was one of the boys of Boys Town. And as I understand it, he admitted to helping to kidnap Johnny Gosch. And that's why he knew this information about Johnny. They used chloroform to kidnap him on a Sunday morning when he was delivering paper. It was the first morning that he delivered paper without his father. Their small dog was found nearby barking. His red wagon full of newspapers was abandoned at the spot where he was taken as well. He was never seen again, although Noreen claims that Johnny came to visit her one night years later. They spoke for about 90 minutes. And after that, he told her that it was too dangerous for him to return to his mother and to return to his family because of what he knew about these people and their trafficking of children. So she says that they spoke for 90 minutes, and then he went off into the night, and he never saw his mother again. She never saw him again. He was never seen again. But there is evidence to point not just that, but also I think a note was found too, and on a dollar bill that basically said that Johnny was still alive. Again, the FBI looked into it. They were not keen on looking into this case, taking Paul Bonacci seriously and his testimonial about kidnapping Johnny. They basically used the same discrediting tactics because Paul Bonacci was a drug addict, a hard drug addict, and he was raped and trafficked, of course, by this Franklin scandal. Because of that, he didn't have the credibility that an upstanding, upstanding citizen would have had. And of course, much of this was not his fault, right? This is kind of the MO. In a way, it's a closed loop whereby they get the kids addicted to drugs and then criminalized, which in the eyes of the Justice Department and society at large discredits them. So when they do come forward with their allegations of trafficking and abuse, they're not taken seriously. And this is the tactic that was used against Paul Bonacci and his testimony when I made those identifying remarks about Johnny that only he and his mother would know because they were up close to him and they saw those, his mother obviously would know his birthmarks and distinguishing features and behavior and mannerisms. So how did Paul Bonacci know these things about Johnny if he's lying? It seems to me to be quite far-fetched that he just took a random guess and knew these things or guessed these things about Johnny Gosch. Didn't he seek refuge at some Indian reservations? I don't know where he sought refuge, but in the documentary, they actually visit with Paul Bonacci the place where they were held, and he actually described the place before they even arrived there, and it was his first time going back to that kind of storage house where they kept the boys. They kept them under this it's not really a basement, but I guess a cellar is more of a makeshift cellar, or a cellar that is not attached to the house, basically underground, where they would keep them if people would show up at the house unannounced, authorities or someone else, right? Sorry about this. Light is a bit overexposed here, but so great documentary. I would highly recommend people check it out. I actually watched it by way of my research into Nick Bryant because he only has a section of a smaller section of the documentary, but that's because of his research into the Franklin scandal that he again links to the Johnny Gosch abduction. And again, the FBI kind of dropped the ball on that, as well as local police. The local police station was only 12 blocks away from Johnny's house, and it took them 45 minutes. And this is not a small town, as far as I recall. 45 minutes to show up to the scene of the crime. They obviously did not do a very good job. And it's one of those cases that we see all too often, and it seems to be endemic in our system that they just don't really pursue these types of cases with much vigor whatsoever, especially, I think, because the FBI might have known already about the link between Paul Bonacci and the Franklin scandal. And Paul Bonacci's attorney was actually John DeCamp, who also wrote a book on the Franklin scandal that I will probably read at some point in the future as well. Again, it came out in 2014. It's an award-winning, RUMUR award-winning. So I guess that's a documentary awards. It's available for streaming. It should be on Amazon still and Curiosity Stream. So I'd recommend people check it out if you're interested in conspiracies, child trafficking. This was actually one of the first big cases in the 80s, back when America was a little more trustworthy, I guess, in terms of your neighbors, and parents would let their kids walk to school a lot more readily and just kind of, walk around town and all that a lot more readily and freely than they do now. He was one of the first boys on the cover of the milk cartons, Johnny Gosch was. And along with one other boy. I can't remember who it was, but because of that, his face got a lot more media attention. So in the milk cartons at schools, there'd be a picture of the missing children, and one of those was Johnny Gosch. He's one of the first children on there. So again, still hasn't been found. His mother has been fighting to basically figure his story out, and she's featured heavily along with the father as well in the documentary. Want to see who directed this? David Bailenson and Michael Galinsky are the directors and writers. David Bailenson and Michael Galinsky. Again, would highly recommend people check it out. Gloria says, absolutely wonderful documentary. To even think about how GHWB and all who were involved. One massive cover-up. What is GHWB? Is that, oh, Herbert Walker Bush. Okay. Yeah, George Herbert Walker Bush. Yeah, again, this is going on during his time. And again, what was going on? Let's do a pop quiz here, folks. Around the same time as the Franklin scandal with the Epstein of that was, again, Lawrence E. King. And as far as who's the Epstein of this scandal, he's mentioned, and I think they have a sketch of him. He's like, I think he said he was Latino, the guy that helped to kidnap Johnny, according to Paul Bonacci. We don't know about him. And again, these Epstein's characters, they're usually not known, right? So Craig Spence, his network, was also going on during this time, but that was, again, in Washington, D.C. But that's not mentioned as far as I can remember, unless Nick Bryan mentions it. But again, the main focus is Johnny Gosch and his link to the Franklin scandal. Recommend people check it out. I think it's going to go down in history and only get more well-known, well read and well viewed by the American public, and hopefully will eventually go down in American criminal folklore as a landmark story. I think it already has, but I just hope it gets to a wider audience, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. So I also reviewed Conspiracy of Silence, if people want to check that out as well. I watched that. That should be much more easily found online. It was originally supposed to be aired in 1994, 1995 by the Discovery Channel. Congress put a stop to that, but it was still aired in the United Kingdom, but a different and edited version. Again, Conspiracy of Silence is about the Franklin scandal itself, which again is linked to the Johnny Gosch kidnapping and the Johnny Gosch network. Some people even think that Gosch may have went to the Franklin network and been trafficked by Larry King to at least a certain extent. There's likely some overlap there. So this has been my documentary review of Who Took Johnny, a documentary about the disappearance of Johnny Gosch, with appearance by author Nick Bryant, as well as Noreen Gosch, Paul Bonacci, Troy Bonner as well, and many other people. Directed by David Bailenson and Michael Galinsky. I'd recommend people check it out. It's really great, fantastic documentary. This is Addy Ads Reviews. Stay frosty. Until next time, folks. You're speaking to Neil Samworth on YouTube in October 20th, Addy. I didn't know this. I'll have to look into that. Where'd you get that info from, Chris John, right? Did Sam tell that to you? Or are you just trying to tell me? Let me know. Snap me. I'm going to be doing more book reviews, more documentary reviews, and more news commentary soon. Thanks for tuning in. Chris John Wright, Gloria B., and Ole Svensson. You have got to be Norwegian, sir. Ole Svensson. There's no way you're not of Norwegian descent. Good afternoon, Linda. I didn't even see your comment. Stay frosty, folks.